The tour group of alien educators watched in horror as human children launched themselves from swings at impossible heights, crashed into each other at full speed, and somehow called it fun. Professor Zektal's 4 eyes widened as a small girl performed a backflip off something humans called monkey bars. His translator must be malfunctioning. Surely these younglings weren't actually training for combat. The Galactic Education Exchange had seemed like such a civilized idea. 12 species sharing their teaching methods at Earth's Armstrong Elementary School. Professor Zektal led the delegation, his crystalline form shimmering with academic pride. The Vorthan educators floated gracefully beside their Nexari colleagues, all here to observe the supposedly primitive human education system. "Welcome to our school," Principal Martinez had greeted them warmly. "You're just in time for morning recess." "Recess?" Zektal's translator struggled with the word. "A period of rest?" "Something like that." Martinez smiled in a way that, in hindsight, should have been a warning. The alien educators had expected to see human children sitting quietly, perhaps meditating or engaging in gentle mental exercises. What they witnessed instead defied all known laws of child safety protocols. The playground erupted into what could only be described as controlled chaos. Children scattered in all directions, their war cries, no, their laughter echoing across the yard. "Is that child attempting to achieve orbit?" Professor Velmar of the Altarian Academy gasped, watching a boy pump his legs on a swing, rising higher with each arc. "They call it swinging," Martinez explained casually. "It's quite safe." The boy launched himself at the peak of his swing, flew through the air for several meters and landed in a roll. He jumped up, grinning, and ran back to do it again. "Safe." Zektal's voice pitched higher than his species' normal range. "He just performed a tactical dismount from a pendulum device. Play is how humans learn. Especially physical play," Martinez said, watching the aliens' growing distress with barely hidden amusement. A group of children had started what they called Red Rover, forming 2 lines and calling individuals to charge at full speed into their linked arms. The Nexari educator fainted when a small human broke through the chain and sent 2 others tumbling. "This is combat training," the Vorthan professor exclaimed. "They're teaching breach tactics." "It's just a game," Martinez assured them. "Watch those kids over there playing tag." The aliens turned to see children engaged in high-speed pursuit scenarios, dodging and weaving with reflexes that would make military trainers weep. One child performed a wall run to avoid being tagged, using momentum and grip strength that should have been impossible for their age. "Your gravity is 3 times our home world," Velmar calculated frantically. "These children are performing feats that our military elite struggle with." "Humans adapt young," Martinez noted. "What you call extreme, we call Tuesday." The Jungle Gym, a name that suddenly made terrifying sense, hosted a group of children navigating a 3-dimensional maze of metal bars. They swung, climbed, and dropped with casual disregard for the laws of physics that governed more sensible species. "That one just fell 2 meters. Zektal pointed at a girl who had dropped from the top, caught a bar midway, and swung to safety. "Oh, that's Emma. She's 5, Martinez said proudly. "Very careful for her age." "Careful." The word had lost all meaning. The true horror came when they witnessed dodgeball. 20 children armed with rubber projectiles divided into teams, engaging in what could only be described as warfare with a smile. The balls flew at speeds that made the educators' protective membranes flicker. Children dove, rolled, and threw with accuracy that spoke of hours of practice. When children play, they're learning survival, one boy explained to the terrified educators, a ball in each hand. "My mom says humans got tough by playing tough. This isn't education, it's warrior cultivation." Professor Zektal's crystals were practically vibrating. "Every human game is preparation," Martinez finally admitted. "Tag teaches evasion. Dodgeball develops reflexes and tactical thinking. The playground equipment builds strength and spatial awareness. We don't call it combat training because for humans, play and survival have always been linked." A whistle blew. The children immediately stopped their play and lined up with military precision. Not one was seriously injured despite activities that would have hospitalized any other species' youth. "How do they survive to adulthood?" Velmar whispered. "By learning early that falling down is just practice for getting back up," a 7-year-old answered, having overheard. She was missing a front tooth and wore her scraped knee like a badge of honor. "Your young are terrifying," Zektal told Martinez as they watched the children march back inside, chattering happily about their games. "That's nothing," Martinez grinned. "Wait until you see what we do in PE class. Today they're learning something called football." The alien educators exchanged glances of pure dread. If this was rest, what did humans consider actual exercise? Inside the classroom, the human teacher was explaining the next lesson. Now class, who remembers the 3 rules of playground safety? 20 voices chanted in unison, stay aware, help friends, and never give up. She means combat readiness, unit cohesion, and persistence, Zechtel muttered to his colleagues. As the tour continued, the aliens documented everything with a mixture of academic fascination and existential terror. The human children, oblivious to their observers' distress, continued their day. They solved math problems with the same intensity they'd shown on the playground. They approached reading like a strategic challenge. Everything was a game, and every game was preparation. No wonder humans are so resilient, Professor Velmar concluded in his report. They train for war from the moment they can walk. They just call it playing. The Galactic Education Exchange ended with new respect for human development and a unanimous decision. Alien children would not be participating in cultural exchange recess anytime soon. Perhaps we misunderstood, Zechtel said during the closing ceremony. Your children aren't training for combat. They're training for life on a death world. Principal Martinez smiled. Is there a difference? On Earth, the playground is where we learn that falling is just the first step to flying, even if it's off a swing set. The alien educators left Earth with their data and their nightmares. Human children, they concluded, were proof that the species' survival wasn't luck. It was practice, disguised as play, starting from the very first scraped knee. Deathworlder children don't play games became the saying across the galaxy. They rehearse survival and call it fun. And somewhere on Earth, a 5-year-old was climbing higher on the monkey bars, preparing for a life where the only limit was how far you were willing to fall before getting back up. After all, that's what recess was really for.